Merry Christmas. Happy Saturnalia, everybody. Welcome to the Gnostic Informant. Welcome to the Gnostic Informant, and you are about to attain true gnosis. With me today is Derreck from Myth Vision.
What is up?
Derreck Bennett. How's it going?
Lo Saturnalia.
Lo Saturnalia. And Santa Claus is here.
Ho, ho, ho.
So today we are celebrating Saturnalia. And believe it or not, in ancient Roman days, Saturnalia was a 7-day festival. Today would be the 7th final day of the festival. It starts on the 17th of December. It goes all the way to today, the 23rd, which is the biggest day of the year. This is the big day. This is the day everybody gives their gifts and parties. But I didn't know until recently that it's not on December 25th. It was on December 23rd, which is interesting. But
I think Santa would really know ultimately.
Yeah, Santa, what's the deal with that?
Yeah, what's really going on with Christmas? I have to just mention there seems to be this backlash, and I don't really know the history. That's why I'm honestly interested in getting your thoughts. Christians are going around saying Christmas does not have pagan origins. Christmas is Christian in origin. Would you have contention with that, Santa? And if you don't, would you say that they're adopting pagan ideas into the Christian tradition? Where do you stand on this?
Well, from what I understand, though this I think is not definitively provable, the best guess is that since no one had bothered to record the birth of Jesus, assuming there was one, that they just picked a day. And that the claim was not necessarily, as you would think today from the way people speak, that Jesus was supposedly born on the 25th, but that's the day to celebrate it, since no one knew. And now, why didn't they? Well, because it only became important to know or think when the birthday of Jesus was, once you had the doctrine of the incarnation propounded. And that in some form or another was the ruling of the Council of Nicaea in 325 AD or CE. And then you're talking about, well, the incarnation would be, I guess, the impregnation of Mary, but the birth of the God-man, and so it mattered to have a celebration of that. Before that, the closest thing to a birthday was Epiphany, which was January 6th, because it had connections with the adoptionist belief that Jesus was a righteous man adopted as God's son at the Jordan baptism. And so Epiphany was a celebration of the baptism and the rebirth, you might say, of Jesus of Nazareth as the Son of God. But once that was sort of thrown back into the closet and the incarnation replaced it, then you had to zero in on the birth of Jesus. And then since they didn't know, though I think Tertullian and one or two other people did try to figure it out from hints in the narrative, like the shepherds in the field, what time of year would they have been grazing them, and so on and so on. What they apparently did was to take Brumalia, the 8th day of the Saturnalia festival, which celebrated the birth of Mithras because it was the winter solstice, the day that the days began to get longer again. And that was like the rebirth of the sun. I mean, talk about astrotheology. That was an unavowed, unabashed case of that. And Mithras was a sun god. And as the theory goes, the church in the 4th century knew good and well that most of its members in Europe were used to celebrating Brumalia, with Brumalia office parties and Brumalia cards in the mail and all this kind of stuff, that they weren't going to stop. And just in the same way, Jews and Buddhists and atheists celebrate Christmas today. It doesn't really mean anything for their belief, but the church, somebody in it, some bigwig said, well, why not have them celebrate the birth of Jesus on that day? What the heck? So I don't know that it was actually supposed to be a claim that they knew when Jesus was born. It was just, well, let's pick that day to celebrate it. I mean, there's one chance in 365 that he could have been born then, but it doesn't really matter. So it does. It's an adaptation of a pagan holiday, but of course they didn't call it Christmas. To make it a Christian belief, well, that had a Christian origin. I mean, it doesn't have to be de novo completely. So it was just like Easter is Christian, not Jewish, but it's kind of based on Passover. Same sort of thing here. So it's not some kind of guilty secret that Christmas had some sort of pagan prototype.
Yeah, that's a good point. And there's a super chat that kind of plays into what you're talking about, because Saturnalia already being a festival celebration every year, it only makes sense that a Christian regime comes along and just kind of adapts to it, not copy it. You're not, you know what I'm saying? It's just more like I feel like it's an adaptation. But Gaius Julius Windex says, was Saturn a dying and rising god? Not that I know of, but.
He was imprisoned as Saturn, or Kronos. He was imprisoned under the sea. I don't know if there was a belief that he would come back from it or not. I don't happen to know, but I don't believe there was a myth of his death, much less resurrection.
He was associated with new birth, with renewal, but not explicitly a dying and rising god that I'm aware of.
Now, I know he gets deposed by his son Jupiter, but I don't think does he kill him? If he does kill him, I don't think he ever rises up. I think that's at the end of it.
Let's see. I know Kronos or Saturn castrated Uranus, the heaven, the personification of the heavens. I'm not sure if I'm halfway thinking that Zeus did the same to Kronos, but I'm not absolutely sure now. My failing memory is attacking me again, but I don't think he killed him.
I only got that from. The only reason why I'm saying that is from I just freshly read Tacitus, and he says this is what randomly in one of his books on the Jews, he talks about the Jews being from Crete, which is crazy, which is nonsense. But this is what he says, and he says that they lived there during the time when Saturn was deposed by Jupiter. I was like, that's interesting. So
yeah, he was deposed, that's for sure.
Yeah. So that's interesting, but yeah, like Derreck was saying, he's an agricultural deity that's for rebirth and whatnot. I think his wife Opis is an agricultural deity too. That she's like an equivalent of Rhea in Greek mythology. And I think that I was just reading this. I should know this. One of the 7 days of Saturnalia was dedicated to her. I can't remember which one. I think it was the third day. But one of them was. But yeah.
I got a question for Santa Claus. Did Mrs. Claus dress you up tonight?
Well, she Well, what do you mean?
How did you get those clothes on? Because it's probably tricky. I know they came in the mail, yesterday?
It's the classic, I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, it's no big deal getting the thing on. I mean, like putting on a shirt.
I just didn't know. You got a special outfit. Takes a special person to put a special outfit on, and Mrs. Claus is a special person. So I'm just using logic. You know what I mean? Derreck Bennett, quick question for you, my brother. Have you been hearing that controversy with the Christians saying that Christmas is a Christian holiday, that it had no pagan origins or roots or anything like that? I think Tim O'Neill takes that position. Have you looked into this any?
Well, it's funny because you'll hear like some Christians, including apologists like Lee Strobel, will come right out and say, yeah, this is true, and I don't have a problem with it, because nowhere in the New Testament does it say that Jesus was born on December the 25th. So it has, it's only what's in Scripture, what's in the canon, that is divinely inspired. Anything else is irrelevant. So, Lee Strobel says, yeah, fine. December 25th, all pagan, don't care, not a problem for me. But others do want to buck this, and they do still want to hold on to that tradition, and so they do buck this, and I think the calculation theory pretty well holds up. Religion for Breakfast, I can't think of his name, but he's got some good stuff on this.
Yeah,
and
he does.
With the calculation theory, the idea that they surmised that the Annunciation must have been about March 25th, coinciding with the Passover, of course. And so Christmas, December 25th, would have been 9 months from then, which just happened to of course, coincide with the winter solstice in Rome. So that's a heck of a coincidence. But even if you want to tie it to the Passover, that's because the Passover itself coincides with the vernal equinox. So there's really no escaping the associations with seasonal renewal and rebirth and that kind of thing. One way or another, you wind up back at the agricultural type symbolism.
We got a super chat, and it's actually somebody asked a question. I'm not sure if somebody actually super chatted to get the question. I was just going to read the question too, but somebody super chatted almost quick same thing. It says, "Where did the Animita Muscaria come into play with Xmas or Saturnalia?" And the super chat says, "What's the deal with the mushrooms on evergreen trees?"
Hey, real quick, as we get into this question, because this might be a fun one to dig into. I've watched quite a bit of content on this and started looking into this and thought there may be something to this for real. Is there somebody waiting down in the panel here? Is someone knocking on the door here?
Who's this?
Hey, good evening, folks. Just doing a little light reading there. So Ken Hoven here, down here at Dinosaur Adventureland. How y'all doing tonight?
We're doing good, Dr. Hoven. Dr. Hoven.
Yeah, well, I mean, you guys are probably some of those evolution perverts, aren't you? Thinking about those 14-foot whale penises. Yeah, I'm here to help. Yeah, so I understand that somebody was curious about some sort of festival, and so I was talking to that Dr. Bowen about it before I came on here. He's in the other room. He knows what he's doing. But he says it's called the Pikachu Festival, I think is what he referred to it as. The Pikachu Festival. So he told me a little bit about it and asked me if I'd come in here and just kind of explain it to you folks very quickly. So I have an IQ of 160, so I'm more than qualified. Okay. Yeah. So Akitu. Okay. So he's telling me that it's the Akitu Festival. Okay. So the Akitu Festival is it's been something that's been celebrated. It was celebrated quite a bit in this place called Mesopotamia. Mesopotamia. Okay, thank you. And of course it was to a false god Marduk. Of course, we know that's it's about as false as that stupid evolution, and so maybe these gods evolve. So yeah, okay, here to help. So yeah, what's that, Matt? Matt Powell's here. See, he's can't get his jacket off. Anyway, as I understand it, once a year, this is a major celebration. All the gods, the idols that are not Jesus, would be brought out in procession to the Akitu temple, and of course this was to sort of celebrate the new year and have prosperity and success for the king, and of course. And something that was done in Babylonia, and of course that's where Satan comes from. Okay, so and you fellas laugh, but it's because you guys haven't evolved yet. Okay, dogs never produce non-dogs. So what they would do is the king would come and he would present himself before the high priest of Marduk, and of course. He's just a big phony, and of course, but he would slap the king and make him cry and pull his beard. He's a little bit of a wimp, but this was to show that the king was subservient to Marduk. Okay, and of course we know that Marduk is subservient to the Lord Jesus Christ. Okay, so I hope this has helped you fellas. I've got a couple of things that I got to get done. The water is raining down on the otters, and so I've got to get back to. I got to get back to that. Yeah, what? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I'll let them know. Josh wanted me to let you know that you're going to hell. Okay. And no, that's not. Oh, well, I want to let you know. Okay, you're going to hell, and if you don't repent, well, you're burning in the lake of fire. Okay. So thank you, gentlemen, for having me on, and may God richly bless you.
Thank you so much, Kent. Thank you.
That's awesome.
Oh, perfect present, huh?
Made the whole show.
Lake of fire. That has got to be so hot.
That was actually Dr. Joshua Bowen, Dr. Price. So I didn't know if you knew that.
No.
He does an excellent Kent Hovind impersonation. And so Kent Hovind is like a radical fundamentalist, young earth creationist, anti-evolutionist, like seriously all over the wacky, crazy stuff you could possibly be on. And he's in there. He has his own little compound and cult followers who I think live on the compound. I don't know, but he comes on and he knows how to sound like him and everything. So thank you so much, Dr. Josh, for coming in.
But
here
he actually laid out the Akitu festival like pretty nicely. Like that was a really good explanation of the high priest going down to Babylon, getting slapped in the. Or no, I'm sorry, the king of Assyria coming down to Babylon and having to get smacked in the face is like humility, an act of humility. Like I'm subservient to the god of Marduk, to the high priest. Even though I can kill you with my army, I'm gonna let you slap me in the face. And this is like a ritual they did every single year. It's pretty crazy stuff. It's like some mobster stuff.
One of my favorite scholars writes about this in a piece called "Did Top Psychics Predict Jesus?"
Ha!
Nice.
Yeah, that was a long time ago.
Oh, it's a great piece, Bob. It's one of my favorites.
This was it was supposed to be in a book called it was a rejoinder to evidence. I think it's called Evidence That Demands a Mistrial. And it was a whole bunch of essays by different people, each one responding to a chapter of Josh McDowell's book. And I got permission from all the authors to take over the book, and I hope eventually to publish it, even though McDowell's come out with new editions and all that, but that may yet see the light of day.
Nice.
About this,
I like Jeffrey J. Louder also had one of the titles was "Evidence That Demands a Refund." I really like that one.
That's great. That's great.
The thing with the mushrooms and all that, some people think that, you know how the American Indian shamans and all that stuff, that has roots in Siberia, since the Indians. I do not use the term Native Americans because I think that would refer best just to Buffalo. The people, the hardy people referred to. They came from Siberia across the Bering Strait, and hardy, great folks, no question. But the shamanism could involve hallucinogens, and it appears that the Amanita muscaria mushroom that has the red cap with the white spots on it, that could have something to do with the colors of Santa. And the idea with the reindeer used to eat these mushrooms from the foot of the trees, and they and the shamans may have experienced the hallucination of flight. We think that's probably what the medieval witches were experiencing from whatever it was they took. And so that could possibly feed into that. There was I think a Gordon Wasson in a book called Soma, Sacred Mushroom of Immortality, something like that, followed by John Allegro. He said that he thought that Soma, the hallucinogenic sacrament of the Vedic religion, was probably Amanita muscaria, though others challenged that. There's no way to know. And there is a beautiful hymn in the Rig Veda to Soma, and it has to do with the priest preparing the drink and rising into the heavens. It's one of the great religious poems.
I did a video on it.
Could be involved. I'm
Yeah.
sorry, go ahead.
No, I just said I did a video on that exact thing you're talking about with the Samaveda, with the they're preparing they called it like the drink from the gods or something like that, but it's the soma juice that you're talking about. Mm-hmm. It makes sense that there's some hallucinogen in there. They just
I've been privileged, just like Derreck Bennett, to have a blonde-haired redneck from the South woman. Okay, which means she's probably not aware of certain details, right? My wife isn't. And I remember bringing up reindeer to her, and I said, "Did you know that reindeer are real?" And she's like, "Shut up! You're such a joke. Quit." You know how they are. I'm like, "No, I'm dead serious. Like, they're a certain type of reindeer, or they're a certain type of deer. They call them reindeer." She's like, "That's a myth. That's part of the sin." Well, come to show her some pictures and like show her that that's true, and she was kind of like shocked, like, "What in the world? Never heard of this." Well, I heard the story goes something like you said, shaman, these natives, if you will, to that area or whatever, these Amanita muscaria mushrooms, which are red and white, they grew around and beneath what we call Christmas trees, evergreens. Yeah. And they hung them. The shamans would hang them on the trees like an ornament to let them dry out.
Yeah.
Then they'd come back, pick them up in their sack, and by taking the reindeer by sled in Siberia, they would go to the villages, and because Siberia is covered in snow, there was no entrance through the front doors. There were chimneys in which they'd have their fires come out through the ceiling, and they would enter in through the ceiling to bring gift. And the gift each year was the Amanita muscaria ritual. And so the village would then, in some way, shape, or form, enact that ritual, and they would be participating. I do find it quite interesting that the colors we find, red, white, and green, go right into that vein. And when I hear people say Christmas is Christian in origin, if I grant that, at the end of the day, I have to think they had to have like vacuumed up as they went and spread. The conquest, as you spread, starts to pick up other ideas. I wonder if they vacuumed up some of this shamanistic and other stuff from Rome, you name it, is being sucked into the vacuum cleaner with a conglomeration of ideas and just packaging it with Jesus was born on this day. That's what I'm wondering.
I was looking into this right before I did the stream because I wanted to know if any real scholars are taking this seriously. And it says that, from what I found, Donald Feister, Harvard biologist, actually says that the reindeer in Siberia eat these mushrooms. So he thinks there could be a connection with that. And then Boston U professor Carl Ruck says that the shamans that you're talking about actually dressed the way Santa Claus, the way we picture Santa Claus to dress, with the hat, with the certain outfit. I don't know. I'm not sure if it was all red or not, but he said that similar dress is how the shamans actually dressed. That's according to Professor Carl Ruck. But it also, and this is I got this from an article from Live Science. There is also a couple of scholars that contested this, said that there's not too much, there's not a lot here to go off. So I figured I'd mention that too, that it is contested. Mm-hmm. But like all things in scholarship and all things when we talk about these things, of course, there's going to be back and forth and people siding on different. But it's interesting, though. It's definitely fascinating. Definitely.
When I worked in Siberia as an assassin for a secret government agency, I think I recall don't laugh. Don't you laugh at me.
I'm not. I'm serious.
I killed a lot of people out there. I'm sorry. Carry on. I want people to take me seriously right now.
I am. Okay? This isn't a smile. I'm mad.
Do you want to go
seriously?
We got another super chat.
Go for it. What are these super chats saying?
All right, we got, can Dr. Bob elaborate on the Buddhist parallels regarding the nativity story?
Well, the biggie is the story of Asita, the sage. He knew to look forward to the birth of the enlightened one, because this comes from a time when Buddhists believed that Siddhartha Gautama, whom scholars think was the historical Buddha, I'm not so sure of that, but nonetheless, they believed he was the 24th in a series of Buddhas stretching way back into remote history. And that by this time they believed that the Buddha that Gautama even had existed in the so-called Tushita heaven, and it was time for him to come to the earth. And so he was born painlessly. A white elephant appeared magically beside his mother Maya and touched her on the side and disappeared. And the idea was that was the Buddha, and he entered into the womb without sexual congress. She wasn't a virgin, but the Siddhartha was not the son of I think it was Suddhodana, the emperor, his legal father. And so, let's see, there was a miraculous conception at birth, but Asita knew this was going to happen. And when it did, a bunch of the gods appeared to him and said, this is it, it's happening. And they took him way over the mountains to the kingdom of Suddhodana, and he took the baby in his arms and wept that he was an old man and would not live long enough to see the Buddha begin to turn the wheel of Dharma, as they say. But at least he had gotten to see him. And this sounds so much like Simeon, the prophet in Jerusalem, who happens to be there, happens in quotes in divine providence, when Mary and Joseph bring the infant Jesus there for circumcision. He knows by the Holy Spirit who this child is, and he takes him in his arms and prays, or sings actually, Lord, now let your servant depart in peace, because as you promised, according to your word, you know, I've seen your Messiah, whatever, and he rejoices. At least I got to see him. But you can tell that's just a slight flip over of the same notion. The old guy that represents the pre-Christian or pre-Buddhist piety, that like, oh come, Emmanuel. You know, you're looking for the Savior, and now he's come, and you're lucky enough to see him. That's all you're going to see of him, but at least you did get to see it. Scholars debate as to whether Buddhists borrowed this from Christians or vice versa, because it's certainly a good candidate for that. There are some proposed parallels between New Testament stuff and non-Christian religions that seem kind of far-fetched, but this is not, because it wasn't like India was on another planet or something. There had been trade relations and travel for a long, long time before this. And missionaries, we know there were Buddhist missionaries in Syria and Egypt in the 2nd century BCE. So they could easily have known about each other's beliefs and myths. And the late great Christian Lintner argues, as does Michael Lockwood, his colleague, who's luckily still with us, that Christianity is a kind of Judaized Buddhism, and that these parallels are not coincidental. And it sounds kind of crazy because it's so unheard of to most people, but there are a number of really striking parallels between Buddhist and Christian lore. And I don't mean ethics and all that. I mean stories.
And the golden rule being sort of like center to both. You know, that's sort of a Buddhist idea. And there's a lot of it just seems like, you know, as Jesus's philosophy, I guess you would say, you can see the connections between the two. I think there's something there. I'm not saying they copied or anything like that, but I'm saying when Christians were coming about, Buddhism was already known in the West. We know that the Egyptians talked about it in some of their stuff, but anyways, I just wanted to mention that. But I also wanted to mention Mithridates' birth. They said that there was a star in the sky signified his birth, being like a king is born or something like that. That was like 160 BC or something like that too. So those sort of nativity ideas were out there, ready to go. Critical Faculty, thank you for the super chat. And the next one is: the sled is the Big Dipper, also known as the plow or the club of Set. Arcturus is red at the handle, aka Rudolph, circling the North Pole. Interesting take, Aquarian TV, and thank you for the super chat. Anyone got any comments on that? Or?
Well, Rudolph is a modern invention, right? That's not an ancient myth or anything.
It's a 19th century a book that was written.
Oh, yeah. I mean, possibly whoever wrote it had that in mind, but I doubt it. I doubt if he'd ever heard of it.
Interesting. Critical Faculty again, dude. Thank you. I don't know. Thanks for all your great work. Says for Bob, Derek, Neil. I'm sure he meant both Derek's in there. Looking forward to our chat on December 28th. Yes, obviously. And let's move on. And the next one is: what's your favorite Christmas folklore? Whoever wants to go first at that, jump at it.
I will say this right now. I'm playing Call of Duty whenever I'm trying to get off the computer so that I don't lose my mind from doing all that I do here at Myth Vision. And they've got the Krampus. Okay, Krampus is actually chasing people in the game right now. For those of you who are playing Call of Duty, you know what I'm talking about. They got this new Vanguard map. I'm not that big of a fan of it, but either way, Krampus comes after you land at a Christmas tree and open your presents. You got to try and beat everybody, you know, and then all of a sudden you're running and he's hunting you. He's a scary looking thing, I can tell you that much.
Interesting. How about you,
So
Barry?
that's your favorite part of Christmas lore?
That's not mine. I just figured I'd mention it. My favorite part is simply the fact that Santa Claus is coming. In fact, even when I was a Christian, I never celebrated Christmas because of Jesus. It was always I was raised with Santa's coming. When I went up to New York and we visited Cooperstown, New York every year where my grandpa lived, where the Baseball Hall of Fame and all that, they had a golf catcher and they'd extend it like 40 feet out and they'd be in the front yard. I wouldn't have a clue. As a kid, me and Kurt are looking out the windows thinking, did you see a sleigh? Like we would be looking hard for Santa, and they'd hit the roof with bells on it, jingling bells. And they'd have the golf catcher smacking the roof. And I thought Santa landed on the roof. Go to bed. Santa's here or he's not going to give us gifts. So we'd go to sleep, and that was what we always celebrated, was Santa, not Jesus.
Yeah. I'll second that. I like the Christmas idea of the Santa in the North Pole making presents for kids. I don't know, man. I like it. I think it should live on. I think it's a good idea. It brings people together. Families get together, have dinners every year. And I can see why the Christians, the post-Constantine Roman Empire, would try to adapt to the Saturnalia time of the year. I can see why they would do that. Makes sense.
I don't know if it's part of folklore per se, but I think my favorite Christmas tradition is Chevy Chase merely getting as his Christmas bonus something for the Jelly Bean of the Month Club, which is as the officer says in the film, he says to his boss, "That's pretty low, mister. If I had a rubber hose, I'd beat you." That's what does it for me. And of course, Cousin Eddie, whom I probably resemble to some extent right now. That's my favorite.
Nice.
What about you, Dr. Price?
Well, you can't beat Santa, but I have to admit a special fondness for Dickens' Christmas Carol and the visit to the ghosts and all that. I just love that, and because it really does embody the ghost story tradition at Christmas, and is certainly a morality tale. And there's two versions of it. There are three versions I really love. One is Mr. Magoo's Christmas Carol, which is really an excellent abridged version of it, and the George C. Scott version, and the one with Guy Pearce as Scrooge that was just on TV, I guess last year. I don't know if it's been broadcast. It's available on Amazon, but that is like a total revamp and expansion of it, and it is really fascinating, just brilliant, I think. So I'm not even sure I've seen all the old black and white ones, but what I have seen of them, I don't care for them, and there's some that are just awful. But the less said, the better. But Scrooge, I think, is my favorite.
That's cool. Moving on to the next super chat, Mummy Vale, thanks for the super chat. Is Odin connected to Santa Claus? This is a good question. Anyone know this?
I'd have to ask the two guys at the bottom.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't. I mean, it does sort of sound natural, but I don't believe I've ever heard that.
Yeah, I'm just gonna say I don't know. But I'm gonna say it's quite possible that the Anglo-Saxons in the north were sort of remembering Odin and sort of playing these different parts together. Getting, I don't know. German. It's Germany, right? Is Germany where Santa Claus comes from? I'm not sure. Is it England or Germany?
Germany, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, so that's probably that could be possible that the Germans that came about with Santa Claus were thinking of Odin and Christmas and.
But yeah, you'd be surprised what all I don't know. I don't even know why I'm here. This is ridiculous.
No, John White, right. My buddy John White, he'd be someone to ask on that.
Yeah, for sure. The next one is Merry Christmas Myth, courtesy David Fitzgerald. Thanks to all and having the show at a time friendly to my time zone. Thank you, man. Thank you for that super chat. I really appreciate that.
Yeah. Absolutely. Merry Christ Myth, he said.
Critical faculty, man. You stop. All right, you're maxed out, dude. Thanks again, dude.
No, he's awesome, man. He's awesome.
He said, "I gotta pay for missing out on Derreck." You didn't have. You could have just sent a comment, man. No, seriously though, thank you. And I really look forward to when we do our chat, when we do our show.
He misspelled the real Derreck actually there, but anyway.
Here we go.
I always tease Derreck with that anyway.
The Aquarian TV. Thank you, the Aquarian TV. This is the second one, man, right?
Yes. He asked about the Rudolph question.
Yeah, now he's back again. Thank you. Oh yeah, by the way, I just want to put it out there. You don't have to ask a question. It's Saturnalia, and I forgot to mention this real quick. I'm going to get to your question in 1 second, but I want to show this is Saturnalia, and every year in Saturnalia, they would have a king of Saturnalia, and the king of Saturnalia was like a jester, and the jester, what he would have to do was anybody who gave him a request, he had to do it. So what I'm going to propose right now, if you have a super chat, I'm the king of Saturnalia. I have to do whatever you tell me to do. Just no nudity, nothing crazy, and make it short. Make it like 10 to 20 seconds. Don't make me sing a long
You
song.
have to super chat it though. You can't.
But it has to be a super chat. Yeah,
you can't.
So, so flood them in. Any
He
requests?
just said he's
I'll
willing
take.
to do nudity, so.
All right. The Aquarian TV says on the winter solstice, the sun stops and its downward motion stops on the third day. It is rebirths on Christmas. So he's talking about astrotheology. Any comments?
My friend Neil Boswell has a great article on this on mythodoxy.net, where he discusses the whole 3-day theme, especially as it relates to Osiris. And I think it actually has more to do with the phases of the moon than it does with the sun. And that's why they believe that Osiris was raised on the third day or after 3 days, depending on the tradition that you're reading. So there might be a little bit more lunar symbolism there than solar, but, could be solar as well.
Interesting.
Yeah. And the solar part, for those who don't know, if you were in the I don't know what the degree is on the Earth, but at a certain point in time, I think it's the 22nd, the sun almost hits a spot where it's about to stop in the sky. And then the next day it stops. It's like, this is where it ends, like it's being buried, so to speak. Maybe it's the peak of the horizon. I don't know if it's not hitting above the horizon, so the whole day is dark because you're in the winter solstice. I can't remember exactly how it goes, but then it rises on the 25th. And this is when they say, or something to that effect.
And there's the whole astrotheology thing. Odin hangs himself for 9 days. And I guess the reason for it being 9 days and not 3 days is that in the north, the solstice is a different amount of days. It's like longer. So the sun seems like it's dead for 9 days, not 3 days. So that's why they have a 9-day. Odin dies for 9 days and then comes back to life. Or he hangs himself for himself. Like, it's really weird. I don't know. But I think that's a later story, like 9th century AD story. So that actually could be borrowing from Christianity more than Christian. Not even more than. There's no way Christianity borrowed from that. That's way later. So I will point that out.
The way Paul speaks of baptism in Romans, I'd known for a long time that this was kind of a mystery religion type mysticism or ritual, but it didn't strike. It just struck me, I think maybe a couple of years or two ago, how much this really does invoke the solar symbolism. You got to think the ancients, they don't know that the world is round. It appears flat to them. So as the sun dips below the horizon into the oceanic waters, the sun is literally, coming down into the oceanic waters and then rising from the waters again in the east. And there's a little bit of a parallel there. The whole idea of being buried, being baptized into the waters and emerging from the waters, a new life, a reborn. So there's some astrotheological significance there that I think is really interesting.
Good take. Let's see. We got a question from Dominus Augustus. And he says, what about Dies Natalis Solis Invicti? Whatever that, I'm not a Latin expert, but birthday of the unconquered sun. So he does elaborate. What about the birthday of the unconquered sun? Now, I know there are some scholars that talk about this. Jason Rezdrajani's big on this. He talks about there being a connection between the birth of the sun, the unconquerable sun, and Mithra. And he says that this December 25th is originally for this. But I know other scholars contest that too. So,
well, I'm not absolutely sure about the identification of the unconquerable sun with Mithras, it sounds right to me, but it seems to me maybe I've read somewhere somebody thinks they weren't the same. I'm not sure, but that is the idea of Mithras's death and rebirth, the latter celebrated on Brumalia, the last and greatest day of the Saturnalia.
Interesting, which is today, by the way. Oh yeah, by the way, the last day of Saturnalia is it's called Signillaria. So I changed the title of the video to Signillaria because that's today. Today is the Signillaria, and it's the last day. So let's see what else we got. Satan was invented by Coca-Cola, by Santa Claus.
Yeah, that's a fact.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's for shizzle.
Yeah. So
Hey, look, Dr. Bob didn't even. He knew. He was like, yeah, that's a fact. Absolutely uncontested. There's no doubt in his mind.
I don't understand this. I mean, even if it's a joke, I don't get it.
Aquarian TV says the sun walks to the south from the summer to winter and up opposite. Jesus walking on the water.
Yeah,
So
I've actually heard that. Yeah.
Yeah, I was going to say, this is interesting because there are some people who try to astro-theologize the entire New Testament. Like, everything is the sun.
Mm-hmm.
The constellations or the 12 disciples. And him walking on water is the sun about to set. Like, you could see the sun setting on the water. It's interesting. It's just, how do you test it? How do you prove it? That's the question. But it's very interesting. I love it.
This is something that Acharya S, would do, and not only her, John Knight Lunwall, who's not in the vein of mythicism at all. He's come on my channel and did a 3 to 6 hour presentation, like 2-3 hour presentations, trying to show that he thinks where Jesus walking on water is talking about this as above, so below stuff, and that he does think like this is being described here. You're looking at the horizon. The sun is walking back and forth, and he thinks that's that's something going on with the water. If it's not that, it's the fact that there's something to do with the celestial, that it's going back and forth, something like that. But I personally used to really believe in this, but I'm not saying it's not possible that may not be an underlying theme. But I see the Old Testament doing this. Yahweh literally is hovering on the face of the waters, or walking on the waters, so to speak, in the Hebrew Bible. But you also see Buddha. He walks on water, and one of his disciples is trying to cross the river. And then he realizes, after he thinks it's a slab of concrete because he has so much faith, he realizes what's going on. He starts sinking. It's hard to know if there's way back in antiquity, before all of these narratives, if there was some celestial astrology into this, and that later on they've kind of lost that significant meaning. But people who see that modern days anachronistically look and go, what? The New Testament authors were well aware of this and they were doing this. You don't know that. That's the question.
Right. Yeah, I think that's a very important caveat, because you can see in, like, for instance, in the Old Testament, the Akeda Isaac, the near sacrifice of Isaac, there are several really convincing interpretations that, to me, imply there are layers of meaning as it was told and retold, that it was reinterpreted and so on, that originally it had to do with the sun and the moon. The moon is Abraham, the father of the multitude of stars, and the sun is Isaac, is the sun, and the moon would like to be rid of the sun so it could dominate the sky, but it can never quite do it because the sun escapes and so on and so forth. But then it also seems very likely that it has to do with abolishing infant sacrifice and substituting an animal for it. And there are other very plausible interpretations. And I kind of think you don't have to choose between some of them. or the Tower of Babel. There's several different things going on in that story. And so I think you're right. You have to wonder, like, it's obvious to me that, and the scholars generally, I guess, that Samson was the sun personified, and it was a solar myth. But I kind of doubt that's what the Deuteronomic historian thought about it. For him, Samson was just like Hercules. He's another version of Hercules. And by the time we hear about Hercules and Samson, they're just superheroes. But but originally they must have been the personifications of the sun. I just doubt that later on people understood that anymore.
So it's interesting you mentioned that, because there's been people drawing connection between Orion and Aaron. The names, whatever, not maybe the name sounds familiar, but I don't think it's just because of that. Because the Orion constellation is right next to the Taurus bull constellation. And they say that the Aaron worshiping a bull or calf is that depiction of Orion standing next to Taurus. But I heard another one that was pretty good. Like I said, none of this you can prove. This is all just people speculating. But I heard another one that was pretty interesting. And they said that Jesus on the cross, if you look at the Crux constellation, it's literally engulfed by the what is it called? Which constellation is that? What are those Roman officers called that's guarding the cross?
You're talking about Centaur?
Yeah, okay. The Centaur constellation is engulfing the Crux constellation. Literally, that's what on the constellation map. You'll see the little tiny Crux constellation is surrounded by a centaur. So they say the Centaurion guarding the cross is the constellation of Centaur guarding the Crux. And then so someone might say, well, a centaur and a centurion are two different things. Well, not necessarily, because the name centurion means the Roman soldier who was on a horse would look like a centaur. So they got the name centurion because they're riding their horses and they look like a centaur.
I don't think that's true. Doesn't it mean a commander of 100? Like a century is 100 years?
You're probably right.
Guys, calm down.
The same thing. In Latin, it was the Chiliarches, which means the same thing, a commander of 1,000.
Me and Neil have seen too many YouTube videos, and let me tell you, there's a lot of people. Trust me, with the zeitgeist stuff that happens out there. Trust me, like there's interesting thoughts that come with this stuff. Oh, we lost him. What the heck happened? He didn't like us. That's what it is. He was sick of the whole. You're arguing with him. Oh,
I don't know what just happened. I just disappeared all of a sudden. That was, but like I said, I hear these things. They're interesting. I don't know. I'm just relaying the message. But 100%, you're. If it's wrong, it's wrong. I'm not saying. I'm not going to tell you that it's right. Like it's what It's interesting.
Well, the Greeks thought that Orion was the same as Nimrod, the ancient king in Genesis. They knew about that story and said, yeah, that's our guy too.
Interesting. So we got a super chat from somebody who says that Signillaria, Saturnalia, $10 for a verse of A Christmas Carol. So I guess I gotta sing Silent Night. So here we go.
Okay. Is that the one you want to sing?
Well, yeah, he's got to give me a request. That's the only thing I can't think of any Christmas carols right now except for Silent Night.
I was thinking you could do the what is her name? Mariah Carey. You could sing one of her songs. You know what I'm saying?
He said one verse.
He's like, dude, don't make me sing. All right, go ahead.
So Sean Day, if you chat or if you type in a request in the next 10 seconds, I'll get it.
If you don't do it in 10 seconds, this is all null and void.
If not, we'll go right to Silent Night.
Okay.
Silent night, holy night, all is calm, all is
bright.
Virgin,
John,
not young woman.
All right, I'm gonna stop torturing everybody because I'm the worst singer in the world. So
He said Silent Night's fine.
he said one verse, right?
Yeah.
He just said, what did he? Yeah, he said for a verse of the X-Men. Yeah.
All right. That's enough of that.
Thank you for the super chat.
Thank you for the super chat.
You
Thank
rock,
you. Appreciate
man.
it. Yeah. Let's see what else we got out there. Dharma Defender says that the Jewish hippie from outer space, that's our dude. Interesting.
Yeah.
Man, Bear Pig. Every 100 men out of the 6,000 the legion was commanded by a centurion. Yeah.
I'm gonna go with Bob on this one because obviously it's amazing how creative we can get. Look, let me give you one other example of something that I think is brilliant, but yet it's like there's so many ways language could bend and you could do things with that it's like, is this really accurate? You remember when Dia Murdoch, Acharya S, said that John the Baptist said there needs to be less of me and more of him. She looked at this passage and she found thousands of pounds of gold in this passage. And what I mean by that is she found that less of him meant that they're going into the winter solstice. John the Baptist is the sun or something like that. And Jesus is rising. So there's some type of celestial body thing. She started to see this as a whole astrotheology thing. And I thought it was clever and very interesting and extremely intelligent in the way that she did it. But in the end of the day, is that really what is going on here? Or is it simply saying John the Baptist is taking the nod?
And he needs to increase.
Yeah, here's the nod to Jesus's ministry and that you guys need to listen to this guy. It's that simple. Is it really as complex as the whole astrotheological interpretation? Or you know which place I'm talking about, Dr. Bob?
Oh, yeah, that's an old view. I'm sure Acharya wasn't claiming originality with it.
Right.
But the reason I mention that is that there is a tradition of interpretation that says that. And it has to do also with the 6-month difference between the birthdays of John and Jesus in Luke and so forth. I guess, I mean, just like in Hercules and Samson, the original point was what we call astrotheology, or Abraham and Isaac, but it gets transformed later, fictively, obviously, that if that is correct, that there was an astronomical meaning at the root of it, that certainly implies that the story as we now read it is fiction. So it's relevant, but there are, I think, other instances where it's virtually certain that that's what happened. It went from a way of talking about the motions of the heavenly bodies to demigods and heroes on earth.
Well,
no, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, as for Man Bear Pig, it's not known whether he's half man, half bear, and half pig, or whether that mathematically even makes sense.
Yeah.
Or whether he's half man bear and
I've
half
had this
pig, or
question
half
before.
bear pig and half man. We just don't know. We'd have to ask Al Gore to get to the bottom of it.
You know what though? I'm thinking about the Centurion thing that I was talking about, and there's so much, like Derek was saying, there's so much misinformation out there, right? That I think it's important for people to not, you don't have to be friends with scholars, but at least go to them to keep yourself grounded. Like if I just was doing my own thing and just saying what I want, nobody would check me, and I could just be like, yeah, centaurs come from centurions, and those are the cognates. But all it takes is Dr. Bauer say, no, that means 100, centaur, century. You know what I'm saying? It's easy. Like Derek, you were saying, you can mold language easily. It's very easy to do. Jojo Freelancer wanted me to read his last comment. He says that Yahweh is not in the Quran because the name Yahweh is for the Jews, and Abraham used Elo or Elohim for God, and this practice went further in the blood of the line of Ishmael. Right? It's a lot to unpack right there. It's a good question. Yeah, it's a good question.
Well, the Quran does use just, it has a lot of epithets, the compassionate, the merciful, and all that. But God is always referred to as Allah, which is a contraction of Al-Ilah, the Ilah, or the Elohim, the God. Which is the preferred name for God in the priestly writer and the Elohist up until the burning bush narrative, where he says, I up to now I've been known as El Shaddai, etc., but from now on I want to be known as Yahweh. And so it gets tricky after that. But yeah, there were different ethnicities and with different names for God, or they may have been different gods. In fact, I think it's pretty clear that El Elyon, God Most High, is a different God from Yahweh, who is one of the 70 sons of Elyon, or El. There's sort of a point to that.
That's a good point. And so Critical Faculty's back, and since I owe him, I have to do what he has to say. And he says that I have to do a rendition of the Island Boys. So are you guys familiar with this?
Dr. Bob is not.
Well, I wish I had the video downloaded. I could play it for him, but
yeah,
I'm just gonna do it.
You got to do it like them, though. You got to because I'm an island boy. Like you really
I'm just trying to make it. I'm an island boy. I'm gonna do it like an island boy. I'm gonna do it like an island boy, and I'm just trying to make it.
No, seriously. The first time I heard that, I was like,
it's what? So bad.
And it caught on and it went viral. These guys are now being invited to sing it and rap it everywhere and stuff. But
the sad part is they're probably gonna be rich forever because of that stupid.
You know that girl? Remember the girl Cash Me Outside? How about that? She's famous now from that. Literally, she was being disrespectful, like a little brat on the stage, and she's like, "Cash Me Outside, how about that?" And it made her go famous, and now she's I don't know, well known and has money and all this stuff from this. I suspect that's what made her go famous.
I was reading her doctoral dissertation just the other day. It's really good. It's really well put.
So what's her CV look like? Is it just you can't even read it all? There's so much.
It blows mine away. That's not saying much, is it?
Fly donated $8.88. It's the number of Jesus. Isn't that the number of Jesus in some sort of
gematria?
Gematria, yeah. But anyways, he says that it's great to Dr. Price dressed as Guan Yu, the holy great deity, god of war, manifesting benevolence, bravery, and prestige. Chinese Xmas myths are wild.
Wow, fascinating.
Yeah.
That's some high-level stuff right there.
Somebody else I'm dressed like, it's another theory about the origin of Santa Claus, is that Santa with the ermine garments and the even the red outfit and the beard and all that was a form of the elder Dionysus, and that in ancient Greece a guy would dress up as him and bring gifts to a village aboard a cart that was shaped like a boat, drawn by I don't remember, deer or whatever. But that's one of the theories as to where the whole idea came from.
Interesting. And that looks like the last of the super chats. And it's been an hour. I think anyone else got anything they want to say?
I don't want a lot for Christmas. There is just one thing I need. I don't care about the presents underneath the Christmas tree. I just want you for my own, more than you could ever know. Make my wish come true.
All I want for Christmas is Dr. Bob. Wait, somebody just popped up with a last minute super chat with $20. Thank you. His name's Hell Awaits. It's an intense fake YouTube name right there. And he says that Satan and Santa is the same. Just the T and the A are moved around. Both are also dressed with red. Ha. Please no more singing Hail Slayer. It's a good one.
All right, well, we won't sing as long as you keep throwing 20 at us. I'm not going to sing, okay?
Right.
Seriously, thank you.
What I do for $20 there, Hell Awaits.
$20 is $20.
$20 is $20.
Because I'm an island boy.
I'm just trying to, man. All right, so I got an outro, and let's roll the outro and be out, and let's make sure there's no more. Okay, that's it. No more.
Hey,
chats.
in the year to come, before you hit the outro, I just want to say this. There's going to be more of Gnostic Informant. There's going to be more of Dr. Price, and there's going to be more of Atheologica, Derreck Bennett. We're going to have a lot more happening on his channel, so make sure you go subscribe to his channel. Obviously, you know, I'm always plugging Nil. Nil is always talking about me. We've always got Dr. Bob. I'm at Santa Claus. And but Derreck, he's doing some really good work over there, the Lord's work, in case you're wondering. The right Lord, not the fake Lord. And the one that Kent Hovind was saying that Marduk bends his knees to. That's the Jesus Lord. So in case you were confused about what Lord we're talking about. That's the one. So go subscribe to Atheologica. In fact, I'm going to pull it up while we do the outro so that you can all go subscribe to the exact link. That's all I have to say is more is coming in 2022. It's going to be insane.
Also, check out Dr. Bob's Patreon and website.
That's right.
Which is robertprice.com, right?
robertmprice.mindvendor.com.
Nice.
I just would like to say a word in remembrance of my late good friend Tom Flynn, who was he wrote about Christmas and its origins. He called himself the anti-Claus, and would make sure he went to work on Christmas. And he was a greatly humored man, and the most consistently secular humanist I've ever known. And he was a jolly old elf, though you might not want me to say it, but he died this past year.
I'm sorry.
Tragedy. I love the guy and just want to remember him.
Absolutely. That's a good way to close out on. And thank you for the $2 at the last second. Your long last pal. You are my long last pal, just for that. But you have all just attained true Saturnalia gnosis.
You have just attained true gnosis. The demiurge has no power over you.